Currency traders, this is Rob Reinhold. I will be flying solo. Mr. Ankit Sharma is out of town. But here we are. We are into December. Cannot believe it. One more month of the year to add on to your yearly pip count. Then the books are closed and we go on to 2024. So let's jump into it. In this session, we're going to review the previous week. We're going to take a look at all the news. We're going to take a look at the equity markets. And then we're going to take a look at the current market. And we're going to give everything a score from +3 to -3. The equity markets, every single currency, all the cryptos. And then what we do is we take the strongest, anything that's +2 and +3, and we pair it against anything that's -2 and -3. And those are our trades for the week.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's get ready for next week.
Last week, equities extended their games. We are now on a 5-week winning streak over the last month. So again, equities are just refusing to go down. Now look, the gain this week wasn't very large, but we had 5 days that pretty much every day was just up a little bit every single day or flat. We did hear from the RBNZ this last weekend. They came out and kept rates at 5.5%, but they started talking hawkish again, saying that, hey, they may need to raise rates again in the future. That helped the Kiwi be the strongest currency for the week. And the other story is the falling dollar continues to fall. We have bond yields now down to 4.2%. That is just crushing the dollar. And if they stay down here, we think the dollar goes significantly lower. Let's talk about some of the big news last week. First, let's talk about the Australia CPI. Now, the Australia CPI came out weaker than expected, and the Aussie actually weakened on this news. When we get to the weekly returns, you're going to see that the Aussie still had a weekly gain, even though it had some bad news this week. That means that people still want to buy the Aussie in spite of this bad CPI print. We then heard from the RBNZ. We talked about that. They kept their rates at 5.5%, but they started talking hawkish on inflation again. Now, to me, the other big news of the week was Wednesday. Now, typically, GDP revisions don't really matter. The way GDP results work is at about 3 weeks after a quarter ends in the US, they announce the first number. That's called the preliminary number. And then they about a month later, they released what's called the actual number, which is just a revision of the first number. And then 3 weeks after that, so almost 3 months after the quarter's over, they issued the revised number. And that revised number is the number that goes in the books. So this is the revision. This is the middle one. And we already had a 4.9% print. It ratcheted up to 5.2. 5.2% GDP growth in a quarter is a very, very strong quarter. Again, it is not pressuring the Fed to do anything because take a look at what we got on Thursday. We got the core PCE price index. Now the core came in at 0.2, which was as expected. The headline number came in at 0%, which it was expected to come in at plus 0.1. So again, we're continuing to see lower and lower inflation in the US and really around the world. We did get Canadian GDP. Canadian GDP was slightly stronger than expected. The Canadian dollar was basically flat. And then we had Canadian employment report. It was better than expected. The Canadian dollar was virtually flat. So the good news in the Canadian economy is not moving the Canadian dollar any higher. Now remember, we have a saying at Maverick called sentiment. When good news comes out and that asset doesn't go up, it tells you it's probably going down. We just saw the same thing with the Australian dollar. We had bad news and the Aussie went up for the week. It's telling you the bad news is not making this go down. It's telling you it wants to go up. So those are just some things we got from the news this week. We got confirmation that the CAD doesn't want to go up and the Aussie does not want to go down. So let's take a look at all the numbers from last week and we can close the books on last week. First off, let's take a look at the performances. We had the S&P and the World Index. They were up about 1%. Now again, this is 5 days, so this is just a grind higher. And that's what we're getting is a grind higher. Crypto up 1.6%. That's a very small move higher in crypto. The big news of the week is gold. That is a monster move in a week for gold. This is directly from the falling US dollar. As the dollar gets weaker, gold is going to get stronger. Gold looks very, very bullish here at the moment. Let's go in and take a look at this S&P chart. And this S&P chart is simply showing us so much strength. Since our bottom back here in late October, we run up, we base. We run up, we base. We run up, we base. That's all we're doing. There are no pullbacks. People are waiting for pullbacks and they're getting frustrated because there are no pullbacks. Now let's talk about why are there no pullbacks? Because the bid is very thick. Now let me explain what I mean by that. When people are buying shares of stock, retail, you go out and you simply say, oh, I'm going to buy my shares and I'll just buy them at the market. When institutions buy shares, they buy hundreds of millions of shares. And they don't just simply buy it at the market. They don't hit a button. What they do is they sit out there, and whenever anyone is selling, they'll buy the shares. So they may have to sit out there for 5 or 6 days to where when someone comes in and sells, they're going to be buying it off the bid. Because they know if they go try to chase it off the ask, they're going to drive the prices up higher. So this is what you see is you see that there is a ton of people out there waiting for sellers to come into the market and buying it. And then at the end of the day, they're starting to put in market orders to chase them higher. This is the most bullish market condition, and you can see we got a nice breakout on Friday. I don't see any reason why we don't go higher next week. Looking at the currencies, we talked about how the Kiwi was the best performing currency. That definitely makes sense because the RBNZ came out hawkish. Second best currency is the yen. Now this does not make sense. Typically, the yen is a risk-off currency and does very poorly when equities go higher. Personally, my belief is that the dollar-yen is negatively correlated here, and if the dollar goes lower, it's going to push the yen up higher. I think as long as this dollar stays weak, I think the yen is likely to go higher. Another surprise on the week is the weakness in the euro. We did hear from the ECB, not officially this week, but some of the members, and they're talking about softening their stance. The euro definitely got weak. This was not on my bingo card for the week. I had euro being somewhere in the middle of the pack. I have to reevaluate, and we will reevaluate in the session about the euro and where it's likely to go. Everything else, nothing's happening. This week, I talked about how this is not a great trading environment, and you really have to focus on what currencies are actually moving. Because right now, pound and CAD are completely unplayable. They're completely unplayable at this point until they actually start moving. Looking into cryptos, we've liked Bitcoin the best, and you can see Bitcoin continues to outperform. I think this is where you want to stay. Just stay long Bitcoin and really ignore all the other coins. Let's take a look at the market and see, okay, did we get a scoring change? Now, we already took a look at the S&P. And right here, I want you to focus here on this 50-day moving average. This is the last thing that needs to change before we go from a +2 market, which is a bullish market stance, to a wildly bullish market stance. You can see that 50 moving average is starting to turn. Maybe by the end of this week, we will go to a +3, but right now we're still at a +2 on these markets. So no change to an already bullish position. We might get a little bit more bullish later on in this month, but for right now, we're going to be at a +2. I mentioned the bond yields here earlier. And I mean, the bond yields, remember, back at 5%, the market was freaking out. The market did not like that. 4.2%. That is so bullish in equities. Hopefully you understand how bullish that is for equities. And that's why we're seeing the equity markets continuing to move higher. If we move over here to crypto, we haven't loved crypto as a basket. We've loved Bitcoin, but everything else, nothing's been happening. Just a big, long sideways action since really October. If we can get above these lines, If we can get above this as a basket, I could get more interested in more coins. But until then, I am only interested in Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. That's it, because the basket is just totally sideways here. Let's take a look at the calendar coming up for this week. We do have 2 central banks this week. We hear from the RBA. Now, this is where I'm hoping. I like the Aussie long. I like the Kiwi better, but the Aussie is my second favorite currency to go long this week. I would love to see the RBA talk hawkish like the RBNZ did. If that's the case, I'm going to put the Aussie dollar up to number 1 and Kiwi number 2. We also on Wednesday hear from the Bank of Canada. Neither of these central banks are supposed to raise rates, but remember, they've gone to a neutral stance. So no rates and a neutral stance is very neutral. If they start to talk more hawkish like the RBNZ did, we finally might be able to get some movement in the CAD. I don't expect that to happen. I'm more excited about seeing and hearing what the RBA has to say. And on Friday, we have the Friday payroll report out of the US. This is one of the things we meet live as a firm, so come join us on Friday, Maverick Traders. We will be trading this report live as it happens, looking for setups. Hopefully we have a good one. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and sometimes there's a no trade on the board. I don't know what else to say that this market is flat out bullish. I talk with lots of traders over the week, and I have a small handful of people that are very nervous and cautious and think this market is going to fall, mostly because it's been up a lot. That's pretty much their only logic. I vehemently disagree with their outlook and simply point to the chart and say, you're wrong. Now look, they might be right this week. We might have a deep pullback, but when you look at the charts, there is no pullback. So I just put flat out bullish. And I think if you take a look at where we are at the end of the year, there's no reason for people to sell by the end of the year. There's just no reason. There is reason for people to buy if they are underperforming for the year and they say, I need to get another couple percent to make it look like I had a decent year to my investors. They're going to put money to work. Remember, 2 central banks this week and the Friday employment report. Let's go in and take a look at each currency one by one and give it a score from +3 to -3. We're going to start out in cryptos. Now I'm going to go through this fairly quick because I've been very clear. There's one I like and only one I like. The only one I like is Bitcoin. Why? It's the only one breaking out. Take a look at it. It's a breakout on Friday. That is a clear breakout of a 1-month high base. Yeah, I'm there. I'm ready. I'm already in it. I really like this. And you can see the velocity score looks absolutely fantastic as well. But if we go over to like Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash, it's a totally different story. I mean, this is just a lousy chart. This is just a terrible chart. This is more bearish than bullish. So Bitcoin Cash is just not interesting. If someone told me, Rob, I like Ethereum, I'd be like, look, I think Bitcoin is a better play here, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it. We've had a nice base here. If it breaks out of the top of this base, okay, you can get long. I still like Bitcoin better. And then coming over here to Litecoin, there's really nothing to like here. It's not even close to breaking out, and it's been more weak than strong. But I do have to say, taking a look at any of the cryptos here, what has the most velocity on Friday? Well, it is Litecoin. This thing is really starting to crank here. And if it can poke above this 72, I think it's an easy glide up to 75. But I still like Bitcoin better. Let's jump into Forex here. Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader? We've talked about the dollar and how weak the dollar's been. Let's take a look at it. We are continually just seeing, falls and then little rallies. Falls, 1 or 2 day rallies, falls, 1 or 2 day rallies. You want to be short dollar, but the question is, where do you want to get short dollar? I think the best time to get short dollar is on up days. Let it have an up day. Let it have an up day. Let it have a little bounce. And then I think it is a great, great entry point for that. When you take a look at the velocity score, you could make a case here that we are in a 3-day low base, which we absolutely are. You could sell a low base as well. Dollar absolutely is still shortable. It has not gone too far. If you are worried that, okay, boy, dollar's already gone from, dollar yen's gone from 150 down to 147, pull up a chart over the year. The thing started at 120. It's got a lot to give up. Speaking of yen, I think the yen is the most interesting currency at the moment. However, I think it's the worst trade at the moment as well. Now, let me tell you what I mean. It's interesting in the fact that it is not behaving like it typically behaves. We've seen over the last year or two, when the equity markets really start rocketing higher, the yen just gets super weak. It's been a very easy trade over the last 2 years. Now, the dollar is the one that's super weak, and everyone is piling on the dollar, and no one's really paying attention of the yen. And so what's happening, it's actually drifting up a little bit. But look at the charts. If I'm just a pure technician, which I try to be, I don't want to trade this. I don't want to trade this kind of price action. I don't know if it's uptrending. I don't know if it's downtrending. I think it's probably just sideways trending to where it's down 1 or 2 days, up 1 or 2 days. I want nothing to do with yen. So I think it's interesting to talk about. I think it's crazy that in this really strong market, it could be rising. It's fun to talk about, but I am absolutely going to avoid this thing. I want nothing to do with it. Coming over here to the Swiss franc. Here's another one that you could say should be weakening. As the markets were weak, the Swiss franc got really strong. Now the markets are strengthening and looking really strong. The Swiss franc is holding in there very nicely. That being said, do I want to buy it? No. I just think it's an interesting thing to talk about, but it's not the currency I want to buy. Let's come over here to the euro, because you could see that something dramatically changed in the euro and changed on Tuesday. If I was to look at this euro chart on Monday, I would say, hey, we're getting some nice support at this 20-period moving average. I think we're going to bounce and probably go higher to a new swing high. That's what the technical view was on Monday. And then you can see we absolutely broke apart. And now, 3 days later, this chart, this uptrend is completely destroyed. And we're now trading below our 50-day moving average, and there's just a ton of momentum to the downside. I am not going to play euro because we just last week, it was +2. Now we're at a -2. It could easily spring back. It could easily keep going. It's not following the trend of what it should do. And if that's the case, I'm just going to say, I'm going to go trade some easier things. So, sorry, euro, I'll figure you out later. I'm going to go trade something a little bit easier. Here we have the pound. Now the pound is boring. The pound is simply just creeping up on this trend line. Take a look at these candles, though. These candles can be very maddening. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to trade and you have stops, look at this. Every day there's a run and a pullback, a run and a pullback, a run and a pullback, run and a pullback. Your trade will never survive this kind of price action. You want this kind of price action when you're trading. You want what we saw out of the euro. your stops can survive this. If you're short, oh, you love this because you're never really even challenged on your stops. You come over here to this garbage, no thanks. So for me, I am completely uninterested in the pound. The CAD has been weak. The CAD has stopped following over the last 2 weeks, but that's about all you can say. That's about all you can say. I think the CAD probably stays sideways until we hear from the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. I am not looking at any trade on CAD until we can get a little bit more clarity from the Bank of Canada. Not just, I don't care what the Bank of Canada says. I care what the chart does on the day that the Bank of Canada meets. If we break down, I'll go short CAD. If we run up, it just means it's not tradable for the moment. Let's come next to the things I do want to buy. Here is the Aussie. So that red candle came on the day of the bad CPI print, and you can see there's people out there buying it. They know about it. They bought it anyway. I like this one quite a bit. We got a 1 or 2 day pullback. It held. We got a nice rally confirmation. It's at a +2. It's not looking the strongest, but I do like Aussie. But remember, RBA is on Monday, so I'm going to wait until that. Here's what is looking the best right now. We've got the Kiwi. And remember when we looked at the the pound chart, these candles, while they're not big, they're steady. They're steady. There's a couple of runs that pulled back, but you can see here, this is a trend. This is a trend that you can ride for a couple days. This is a smooth move higher, +3, +2. This is my number one currency on the week. When we take a look at our trend scores, we've got Bitcoin and the Kiwi as the clear winners at the moment. And we've got dollar as the clear loser. The euro to me is just a question mark. I am not going to mess with it. It was totally unexpected, the move that happened this week. I want to see more price action here. So for me, just euro is completely out the table, and CAD is basing. If it can go lower after Wednesday, I'll trade it. But as you can see here, there's not a whole lot I'm really super excited about. Kiwi, Aussie, really versus dollar. But if we take a look at what's moving right here, right now, looking at our velocity score, what has the most velocity at the moment? It's Litecoin. I'm not going to chase Litecoin because I would rather be in Bitcoin. And yes, it might be a slower ride, but it's much better on the trend score. This is where I think you want to focus. This is the focus for the early part of the week. Are the Kiwi and the Aussie going to continue to show their strength? And is crypto going to break out as a group? And if it does, Bitcoin and Ethereum are great buys. And the dollar is on its heels. I don't see any way the dollar gets off of its heels. So it's pretty easy what we're looking for. We're looking for trades in Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, and then we're looking to be long Aussie dollar, long Kiwi dollar. Let's go in and take a look at those. Would having more trading capital help you meet your trading goals? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop firm. We fund traders just like you with 5- and 6-figure accounts where you keep 70 to 80% of profits. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to start the process. This will take you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position, and you can read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have. After that, if you're interested, fill out an application, and then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video and schedule an interview with our recruiters. Are you our next trader? I want to take a look first at Bitcoin because Bitcoin is my favorite of the cryptos, and just this pattern is just absolutely beautiful on a daily chart. So on a daily chart, you can see we have based, let's call this an ascending triangle pattern, where we are now breaking out of the top of this. This is just a really clear breakout. The question is, okay, where is the next resistance point? As you can see, we are the highest we've been in a while, all the way back here to 2002. So I'm going to go to a weekly chart. I'm going to go to a weekly chart just so we can see a little bit better of the ranges here. looking for some resistance. That's what I'm looking for, is resistance. Where do I think the next resistance could be? We did have some resistance around this area, but you can see we're starting to clear out of it. I don't see resistance until really, I'm going to go ahead and say 45,000. Will it get there this week? Absolutely not. Will it get there over the next couple of months? Possibly. I like Bitcoin. I like it. Really, it just looks really good right here. The only question is timing. We are just breaking out of a long base. If you're a little bit worried about timing, buy half here and then buy the other half when it looks good again. And I think you've got a really nice entry point here on Bitcoin. Coming here to Ethereum. Ethereum just it's not pressuring the highs yet. It's just not there yet. It's likely to get up there and likely to break through this 2100, 2110. But Bitcoin's already doing it. So I don't want to play second fiddle. I just want to go with what's working the best at the moment. And then let's take a look at my favorite currency trade. And this was my favorite this week. I played this several times this week, and it was good to me every single time. Kiwi dollar. Kiwi dollar. However, it looks great, but this is where you want to enter. And I'm going to go to like a 4-hour chart, and I'm going to go for a 4-hour chart over this last week. So if we go back over this past week, the best entry points were off of pullbacks, and the pullbacks came when the dollar was strong. So again, pullback to here, dollar was strong. So any periods where the dollar was strong, I think you want to be a buyer of Kiwi dollar. At this point, we are now breaking out of the top of this base. It's a Friday. I'll check back on this next week. Maybe you buy it early in the week. But for me, I think the right call is you buy the pullbacks. You buy the pullbacks, you wait for it. The only question is, what's the better pullback to buy? Is it Kiwi dollar or is it Aussie dollar? You just want to be looking to buy pullbacks. Buy pullbacks, buy bases. Again, here's a nice base. Okay, you can look to buy that. Here's a nice pullback. You can look to buy that. Again, it's a little choppy here, maybe a couple points. But this is what you want to do. I think it's tough just to jump in and buy these while they're running. I think you want to, again, let that dollar have a 1-day run, and then you want to go ahead and get back short on dollar. So it's really pretty easy here. This is really the only thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at crypto and Aussie Kiwi on the long side. I'll go ahead and say it again. It's a flat out bullish market. Even if whatever argument you want to make, you're wrong at the moment. You're just wrong. I know you're saying I'll be right eventually. Of course you will eventually. Right here, right now, you're flat out wrong. This market is super bullish. The bid is thick. People want to buy. They're sitting on the bid. That's why we're not getting any pullbacks, which means if people want to get money in, they're going to be forced to get in on the ask. They're going to be forced to buy at the end of the day because there weren't enough sellers for them to get their positions, and it's just going to go pushed higher every single day. That's what we call year-end performance chasing. As always, focus on the currencies in play. I don't want to see anyone playing pound. Pound is just not doing anything. It's a tough trade at the moment. CAD's a tough trade at the moment. I think yen's a very tough trade at the moment. Go to where the trades are a little bit easier. Those trades will develop sometime over the next couple weeks or months, but for right now, just stick with what's easier. Remember, Mavericks, Friday morning we are meeting live for the U.S. payrolls report. Come join us. It's always fun to trade those things live as a group. Everyone have a great weekend. Stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.